Welcome to Shoe Talk for July 2024. We've got a lot to get into, so let's just jump in. It feels like since April, all I've been doing is shoe reviews on this channel. Now, this is a shoe review channel. More importantly, it's a shoe tech channel, and reviews are a big part of what I do here. But since April, there has been a ton of reviews, and I've been running in a lot of different shoes. Now, April through July are really the prime time for shoe releases on a given year, because in the winter, not a lot comes out. One or two things come out, mostly important shoes for marathon season, the spring marathon season. And then we get the bulk of everything in late spring, early summer. And then August, it's sort of dead because everyone goes on vacation. And then things pick up a little bit for fall marathon season, starting in September. And then we start to see next year's shoes around November-ish. So that's generally the shoe release season. So right now I'm at the end of big shoe release season, and there have been some mega releases on this channel for me that I needed to cover. And it's been great. A lot of daily trainers, some race shoes, some really interesting shoes, some oddballs. There'll be a few more coming in August, but it's been a lot to review. And it's really sort of beginning to strain how much I can actually run and review, because I'm struggling to balance something right now. And that balance is really about running in what I need to be running to cover on the channel, running in specific shoes to do reviews on them, or running in specific shoes for longer term videos that I have planned, trying to get data on things, trying to get my impressions across a category of shoes, stuff like that. And it's been a lot the past couple of months, especially June and July, because a lot of the big daily trainers that I've been waiting for all sort of came out all at once. And I kind of knew that, but this year in particular was a lot to cover. And again, I'm just one runner. I'm a single entity on this channel, and I hope to continue that for a long time. I want this channel to be me and my point of view kind of only. But it really has been straining the amount of running that I can do on a weekly basis versus going out and running for the enjoyment of running. Now, I enjoy this channel. I enjoy all the running I do for this channel, but there is a difference between shoes I feel like I need to go put time in to do a review on versus shoes that I want to go run in because I enjoy them. And now that the big release season is sort of winding down and we're getting more into sort of a quiet time, I'm finding myself, especially in the past 2 weeks, struggling to run in really any other shoe than this shoe, the Nike Pegasus 41. And if you follow me on Strava, you would have seen this, because all of the runs that I'm tagging pretty much have been in this shoe, except for some workouts which have been in some other shoes, which we'll get to in a moment. But I just find myself reaching for this shoe and struggling to reach for really anything else, because this shoe has everything I want. The feel, the cushion, the comfort, the toe-off feel, everything about this shoe is exactly what I want to run in. It's not, I think, the best shoe that's out there. I've done a lot of content in the past month, especially in July and June, around other shoes that I think are better than this shoe for specific things. But that being said, this is still the shoe I'm reaching for, because it's just near perfection for me for what I want. And yes, I know I have a Pegasus bias, but this peg is really, really good. And I just can't get enough of it. And I've run this shoe through a bunch of things now. A lot of easy running. I've been doing long running in it. And right now, long runs for me are about 10 to 11, maybe 12 miles. I'm not training for a marathon. I'm not doing that type of volume. So a 10 to 12 mile run, 16 to 18K-ish, somewhere in that range, is long for me right now. And I've been doing that in this shoe, and it's been wonderful. This is just everything I want. Even fast stuff. I did some marathon pace, which is around 4:14 per kilometer for me right now, in this the other day, and it was brilliant. It was awesome. And that brings me to another point that I've been thinking a lot about and actually noticing a lot of people talking about as well. And this point is around foot strength, leg strength, things you've heard me talk about all of the time on this channel. But I'm seeing this come up in a few places. Most recently, I saw it come up in Believe in the Runs, the Drop podcast, the most recent episode where they're talking to Joe Rubio of Running Warehouse. And Joe Rubio is amazing. I could listen to his stories and his knowledge forever. And in fact, I highly recommend subscribing to the Running Warehouse Mr. Rubio used to run, where Joe and Connor really just sort of riff on things, and it's like pulling stuff out of Joe's mind. It's fascinating. But I highly recommend the Drop podcast with Joe Rubio. I'll put a link in the description, because Joe gets into something that I'm actually hearing in a bunch of places around super shoes. Joe puts a lot of knowledge down on plated shoes versus a volume of training versus all the things we do on Strava versus competing on Strava versus racing. A lot of knowledge. But one of the things he mentions is something he sees coming down the line for all shoe manufacturers. And he's looking at stuff that's 2-3 years out at this point, is more flexible shoes. And this is coming from athletes. Athletes are asking for more flexible shoes from their sponsors. And I'm talking about pro athletes, collegiate athletes, athletes that are burnt out on training 100% or primarily in plated shoes. They're really looking for non-plated, very flexible options. And Joe was saying the thing he's seeing from all manufacturers is, think of a Nike Free, a very flexible shoe, but in a super foam. So you're getting the benefits of a super foam, the leg savings of a super foam, but you're getting that in a very unstructured, very flexible shoe, which is building foot strength. It's building Achilles and leg strength, calf strength, all of these things that training in a plated shoe, a non-flexible plated shoe, a very stiff carbon plated race shoe, not necessarily super trainers, though I would put super trainers in there as well, though that's kind of a middle ground between an ultra stiff race shoe and a very flexible sort of Nike Free style shoe. But he's saying that all manufacturers are going to start coming out with shoes like this. And I'm also seeing this. I am in a couple group chats with some coaches that coach high-level athletes across brands. They're not really brand specific. And something these coaches are talking about are athletes asking to build foot strength, workouts that are building foot strength, people wanting to train in much simpler shoes, not necessarily lower stack. The lower stack is a byproduct of making a shoe more flexible, but just non-plated, very flexible shoes, again, because they feel like if they're running all of the time in plated shoes, they're missing something, and they want to go back to sort of simple basics. And again, I'm seeing this in a bunch of places. It's something that I've talked a lot about on this channel, because personally as a runner, it's something I really focus on. And what does this have to do with shoes? But something really interesting just showed up a couple hours before I started filming this, and that's this. The Nike Pegasus Plus. Now, I've been excited about this shoe, and I haven't run in this shoe yet. Literally, this just showed up a couple hours ago. But this is exactly what Joe Rubio was talking about, and a lot of other coaches and high-level trainers that I'm seeing are talking about as well. This is a very flexible super foam shoe. This shoe is all ZoomX. There's no plate in the shoe. There's no shank in the shoe. I'm pretty certain now, having gone over this shoe and really pressing into this shoe, there's no shank in this shoe. This is just pure ZoomX foam. Now, ZoomX comes in a few flavors. I think there's primarily two flavors. There's this more rubberized ZoomX, which you find in this shoe, the Streakfly, the Invincible had it, and then there's the other ZoomX, the one you find in the Vaporfly and the Alphafly. But this is that more rubbery ZoomX, which still feels like ZoomX, but doesn't quite feel as airy as what's in the Vaporfly or Alphafly. But I'm going to go out in my first run in these tomorrow, probably about a 10-mile run. Again, if you follow me on Strava, you're going to see this. And I'm really, really curious about this shoe, because this shoe feels like I'm back in 2018. When I unboxed this shoe, this felt like the original Pegasus Turbo. In fact, there's a callback to that on the tongue here, which I don't know if you can quite see that. I'll get a photo up on Instagram about this. By the way, follow me on Instagram because you'll see these random things. but there's a callback to 2018, 2024. This shoe really, really feels like the original Turbo. It even looks like the original Turbo. I had the black one, and this shoe looks almost identical. In fact, these two shoes together, I keep kind of having to pinch myself. Like, am I back in the Peg 35, 36 days? In fact, I was dictating some notes for a future script for a video coming out later this month, and I mistakenly was calling this the Peg 36 because I'm sort of in that zone, because both these shoes are so reminiscent of where Nike's been with that. And I think that's brilliant because those were some prime era Nikes, and Nike has brought the Peg and the Peg Turbo, or now the Peg Plus, back to that. And it's brilliant. I cannot wait to run in this shoe. So this may be the shoe that's going to stop me from only running in this shoe, because this shoe is kind of everything I want. And my initial sort of step-in feel of the shoe, I will have my initial impressions of the shoe coming out later this week with a bunch of other comparisons. So stay tuned, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But my initial step-in feel of this shoe is it feels lower to the ground than the Peg 41, which is great. And this feels very reminiscent of the Streakfly. Just a more substantial Streakfly designed for training, not racing. That sounds kind of perfect for what I want. So there's a lot to talk about in this shoe. I cannot wait to run in this shoe. One other thing I'll mention about this shoe now for my initial step in on this is that everyone's stressed out and worried and saying, I'm not going to buy the shoe because it's got a 10 mil drop. Well, I'm going to say that where the Peg 41 does feel like a 10 mil drop, 8 to 10 mil drop, but it does feel on the bigger end of that, the real feel. The real feel of this shoe, because it is Zoom X and you are sinking into it, this shoe does feel more like 8, maybe even 6. This shoe feels much flatter than the Peg 41. It does not feel like a 10 mil drop. So if that's the thing that's holding you back from buying this shoe and you want a lower stack, more flexible shoe, I would say forget it, because this shoe feels much lower than that. So exciting content coming up on this shoe, and I've got some exciting stuff planned in August around shoes like this. So stay tuned for that. Now, kind of on the flip side of the opposite of everything I was just talking about, another shoe that I finally got this month was this. Yes, I finally got an Alphafly 3. I may be the last person on YouTube that got an Alphafly 3, but I do now have the Alphafly 3. And what's weird is that as soon as this one was on Nike.com, every other Alphafly was on Nike.com. So I had my pick of the blueprint, the violet or purple colorway, and the new electric colorway. They all kind of came within a few days of one another, which is weird because Nike.com here in Taiwan has been very kind of behind the times. Now I have everything, including the Peg Plus that I just showed you. That came out about a week ago already, and it just took a long time to get here because we just had a 2-day typhoon that basically shut down Taiwan. But I'm glad I went with this one because the Volt colorway, I think this is going to be probably one of the most iconic Alphafly 3 colorways that you're going to remember in a couple years. And the Volt colorway has really grown to me. I actually really like the way this shoe looks. And I think what's made Volt really wear on me and kind of warm up for me is that the Peg 41 in the Volt colorway I think is absolutely outstanding. So I love how this works with the Peg 41. But on a running front, I have now done 2 workouts in this shoe, and overall it's pretty positive. Now I'm very, very much a Vaporfly runner, and you know, this shoe has been talked a lot about being the one that if the Vaporfly runners still held out, this is the one that's going to make the Vaporfly runners kind of move to the Alphafly. I can see it. I don't know if that's going to be me, but I'm really enjoying running this shoe. Now, since I am the very last person on YouTube to get this shoe, I'm not going to do an initial impressions review of this shoe. I'm probably going to wait till I get this shoe to about 50 miles and do a 50-mile review of the shoe because you've heard everyone talk about this shoe. I've covered this shoe from a technical and design standpoint, but I know people are curious about my running impressions of this shoe, so they will be coming in August because I am going to be prioritizing this for workouts, mostly because it's fun to run in. I'm excited to really test this shoe, but I also do want to get it to 50 miles so that I can actually talk about it. So there will be a review of this shoe at 50 miles incoming in August. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. Now, in non-Nike news, shoe news at least, the other shoe that's been really important for me to talk about this month, or at least in July, was this, the Superblast 2. Now, I did my 50K initial impressions on this shoe, and overall, it's very, very positive because this is that update where Asics changed a lot of things, but as I said, my initial impressions, there'll be a link in the description to that video, it's all for the better. It's all either quality of life enhancements or performance improvements. And this is going to be, I think, one of the best updates this year because this is a beloved shoe that Asics didn't really change that much, just made everything better. So this should probably be a better shoe. So this has been fun to run in. As I also said, my initial impressions, though, I just don't see myself running in this shoe very much because, again, I'm not training for a half or full marathon right now. So I don't need a long run trainer like this. And one of my criticisms of this shoe is it's just too much foam. I don't like running in shoes with this much foam. It runs much smaller than it actually is, but still, there's too much foam in this shoe. So I treat this shoe very much like a super shoe. I will pull it out and use it like a super shoe because that's really what it is. I think if we're honest, the Superblast 2 is a super shoe. Just because there isn't a plate in the shoe doesn't make it not a super shoe. So I will eventually, probably by the end of the year, get this shoe to 100 miles, but it's going to be a while before I start to do other content on this shoe. And I've done all my initial content on this shoe right now. So great update. Go check out the videos that I did on this. Again, I'll link most of them in the description. And if you have a pair of these, let me know how you're getting on with them. I'm really curious how much durability people will be getting out of this shoe. It certainly won't be me pushing boundaries of durability in this shoe, but I know people were putting 600 to 1,000 kilometers into the Superblast 1, which is getting around 400 or 500 miles, maybe a little bit more. I'm curious how this shoe will hold up. So I'm going to be looking for the longer term reviews of this shoe. And if you put a lot of time into the shoe, let me know in the comments what you think of it. Now, I'm talking about the durability of the Superblast 2 from the foam perspective, the FF Turbo Plus foam that is now in the Superblast 2. And I'm basing that on my experience with this shoe, the Metaspeed Edge Paris. Now, I'm getting close to 100 miles into this shoe, so in August, I will have my 100-mile longer-term review of this shoe. And overall, this shoe has been a joy to run in, but I will say that the FF Turbo foam in this shoe, which is the same foam that's in the bulk of the Superblast 2, does get softer. It does soften up. We're not talking Zoom X sync here. It's nothing like that, but it is a softer foam now than when it was new out of the box. The performance of this shoe hasn't changed. If anything, I would say it's gotten a little bit better because the foam now is molded to my foot, so it fits my foot a little bit better. But everything's not quite perfect with this shoe, and I'll talk about that in my long-term review. But this is still an excellent shoe. I've been enjoying it. It's super fast, and there's some things to talk about in it, but it's a great shoe overall. Otherwise, in July, there's been a couple other reviews on this channel. One in particular, which I think has stirred up the hornet's nest of people who watch these types of videos on YouTube. But I stand by everything I said about that shoe, and I'm glad I don't have to run in that shoe anymore. And I will never mention that shoe by name on this channel again. That's how much I dislike that shoe. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description. You can go watch that video. But I'm glad July's done, and I'm glad I can get into August because my plans for August are really stepping back a little bit from just pure reviews on this channel. Obviously, the Pegasus Plus will be a review I do on this channel. There'll be a couple other reviews, less vital reviews, more reviews I want to do and things I've been wanting to get to. You'll see what I mean in August. But I'm going to have a couple long-term reviews. I'm going to have some more editorial content, some design talk, some shoe talk content. And I've been working on a data video around super shoe efficiency, which I will finally, hopefully, get out in August. That may be a two-parter. I'm not sure. It also may bleed into early September a little bit as well, just because I have so much I need to run to really gather the data for that video. But that one should be interesting as well. So if all of this stuff sounds interesting, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Though I figure most people watching this video and me sort of ramble into the camera, you are subscribers. So again, thank you for being here. Interesting stuff coming on the channel. I think August is going to be a time for me to sort of step back, collect myself, and put out a lot of content I've been wanting to get to, because I think there'll be some more reviews coming in September. And once we get into fall marathon season, yeah, there'll be some interesting stuff coming down the line. And before we know it, we'll be at the end of the year, and I'll have to do my best of content, and we'll start seeing some 2025 shoes coming out after November. So a lot of exciting stuff ahead on this channel. Stay tuned if you're interested in any of it. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.